Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Nashville Vice Mayor Jim Shulman. The council just passed a new budget. We're talking about that and other challenges facing the city. Mr. Vice Mayor, just so people understand, the Metro Charter is a little bit of a different animal in terms of budgeting the school board. The council and the mayor approve a budget for them, but then it's totally up to the school board how to spend the money. So you're kind of caught in the middle. You may direct the school board to do it. We'd like you to spend it this way, but the school board doesn't have to do it, and that can create some issues.
Well, it can create some issues, but for example, we had an amendment on the budget that gave, I think it was like $5 million extra for some type of bonus to deal with a lot of the support staff issues. There was some language at the bottom of the amendment that says, you know, we want some control. We want to make sure this goes to where it's supposed to. But again, we just give the money to the school board. It's up to them to make the decision about where it goes.
There's also a general issue I think some people are seeing with perhaps how this budget worked out. The Cooper administration, in putting its budget together, used some of the fund balance, reserve funds. The council used even more of it as it went through. And there were some concerns being raised, even by some members of the council, that we're now below the financial levels that cities recommend they should have in their reserve funds. Yeah. This council, when it went in, got admonished, and even threats of being taken over by the state comptroller, taking over the checkbook because they didn't think Metro was doing a good job on that. The feeling had been they'd done a good job on that the last 2 years. Did we fall backward a little bit on this year?
If we did, we fell back a little bit. We're trying to get 2 months of funding in those fund balances to take care in case there's a big issue in some ways in terms of Metro government. So it's like a family budget. You want to have enough in your savings account, and you don't want to touch it. You want to get it built up so that if there's a problem, it's there for you. We're getting closer to where we need that, where we get that 2 months. I think is somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million.
Now, during the council meeting, Metro finance officials got up and expressed some concerns about it. Now, under the Metro Charter, had the finance officials wanted to get up, they could have used the power given to them in the Metro Charter to say, we're not going to approve you passing this money. Right. For lack of available funds to do this. But they didn't do that. Did that puzzle you?
A little bit, because if you're really trying to get to a certain level, then you stay constant and you say, don't touch that. Don't touch the fund balances. You know, we're getting closer to the number we want, but they didn't, in the end, I think the council thought there was enough room and maneuverability to actually take some of that money.
And when they said, well, we'd prefer you not, but they didn't say no, don't, then they sort of took that as saying, okay, I can.
Well, let's just say to the council, if you don't say no and you say, well, we'd rather you not, the council's going to take advantage of that and probably do it.
Now, the council also, and this happens every year in a budget, they take money from one department and they take it and use it for something else. In this case, it was $100,000 that was taken from a contract that the city has had for many years with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce to do economic development. And they said they were doing it because they want to hire somebody in the planning department to help with the affordable housing issue, an extra staff person. But they also admitted this was sort of political revenge against the Chamber of Commerce. They're not happy over there with the Chamber.
Yeah, the council was mad at something that the Chamber did. I will tell you that the Chamber for years has done an important function for the city, and that is we don't have a large economic and community development department. You know, for a long time we've only had one person in that. So the Chamber has been the group that has, you know, encouraged people to come, you know, showed people around, tried to make sure that this stuff works. We're going to have to deal with that. So there was a political message, I think, sent by the council. It was a close vote. I think it was 19-15 on the amendment. But they basically said, we're taking all the money away from that contract, or at least most of it, and we're sending a message.
Well, people understand politics, but they also are concerned, is this going to hurt the city by doing that?
I think we have to regroup a little bit on this one. Nashville is depending on business and economic development. We can't stop just because we have a lot of growth. We always have to be, I mean, we're a hot market, so we need to go back and make sure that we've got this one under control.
Speaking of budget funds, the council approved a new homeless services agency. There was a bill to do that on third reading. It also approved money for it in the budget. Nashville, like a lot of cities, has struggled about how to deal with homelessness. We've not had a separate freestanding agency. Now we do. Do you think this is going to make a difference, and how will it make a difference?
What I will say is that it's not going to solve the issue, but there is a lot of momentum trying to be driven right now by the mayor's office and by social services, Metro, and a lot of the advocacy groups to deal with homelessness. The agency, the benefit of the agency is that whoever's put in charge of that becomes a focal point. It becomes the leader of the discussion to try to deal with the homelessness issue in Nashville.
With the budget done, although still needing to be monitored. The council also approved $200,000 in that budget for the Metro Sports Authority to select a consulting firm to review the city's obligation to the present Nissan Stadium. When that idea first came up about building a new stadium, or whether we do that or renovate another one, the mayor's office said we didn't need a study to tell us what we already knew. The fact that this is in the budget, and I don't think the mayor's going to be vetoing the budget, and I don't think he has line items, has the administration come to grips that this is okay? They're okay about doing this study?
I think they should be okay with it. I mean, it's always helpful to have like a second opinion on things like that, particularly when you're talking about $1 billion to $2 billion to maybe build a new stadium or at least refurbish the existing one. That's a tremendous obligation, tremendous amount of money. You always want to make sure that you understand exactly what you've got.
The feeling is that what to do about the stadium is going to come up to the council sometime later this fall. Is there going to be time to do a study and get that back so the council will be informed on what to do when the proposal comes up?
Look, I mean, I don't know the time frame involved with this. My guess is this is the next big issue that's going to be brought before the city. You want to make sure that you've got all the facts together. You do not want to rush in a decision like this. You want to make sure. I'm not even sure exactly what we're talking about in terms of all of these different things being put on the table. We're going to get that information. We have to understand it before we vote.
At this point, is it fair to say that the council and yourself have kind of been left out, maybe haven't been briefed about what all this is? There's a lot of stuff going on. We'll talk about a few more things that the mayor's talking about adding to that project, and you haven't been briefed at all.
I have. It's been a while since I've been briefed. Apparently I'm going to be briefed in the next couple of weeks, so maybe I'll know more. I think some council members have been briefed. Obviously, Councilmember Withers, it's in his district. I think he probably knows more than I do at this point. The whole idea, though, is that everybody needs to understand. This is a major project. Whatever happens, people need to understand the issues and the numbers, and we're going to try to make sure that happens.
Council always gets in there last, and there's always a deadline out there. The Titans want to have this ready by the fall of 2026. And so 2022 is basically over for the most part. So do you feel like you already feel some pressure to do something pretty quickly?
Well, I think, yeah. So now that we've got the budget passed, which took a tremendous amount of effort on everybody's behalf, if this is the next big issue, Pat, then we need to focus on this very, very quickly. We need to get our ducks in a row. We need to understand what's going on. And we don't need to be put in a position where, somebody hands us something that is, a tremendous amount of money and say, you've got 2 weeks to pass this or we're going to run out of time. It's like, no, we need the time.
Vice Mayor Jim Shulman is our guest. We're talking about issues facing Metro after the budget's been approved. Back to continue our conversation with the Vice Mayor after you watch these messages.